Charlie, there's a difference between the two of you on social issues to some degree. I know, Mark, you've said that the government should not intervene in areas like abortion and gay marriage, but you're not personally in favor of abortion rights or gay marriage. You are in favor of both of those. Does it make sense for the Republican Party here to be a little bit different? You know, we're not Alabama. We can have a conservative alternative in Massachusetts that is a Massachusetts alternative rather than an Alabama alternative.
Well, I guess what I would say is I think in any state party, what you really want is to create your own brand and your own identity. And my brand has always been what I would describe as sort of a Bill Weld brand, because he and Paul Cellucci were my political mentors. And that basically means fiscal conservative, social moderate. And I come by my positions on the social issues to some extent based on personal experience. My brother's gay and married and lives in Massachusetts, and came out a long time ago in the 1980s, and that was a very different time than living sort of anywhere, and especially in a place like Massachusetts would be today. I do think that for the party to be successful in Massachusetts, its greatest opportunity to succeed here is to make the case on fiscal issues. When I think about the candidates who have won in Massachusetts, running statewide, almost to a person, they made the case that they would be tighter on managing the state's fiscal situation, they would be tighter on taxes, they would produce more value for the money, and they would make the race and the debate about what I would call the pocketbook stuff. And I happen to think that that's where Republicans win, and that's where there's a great opportunity to make the case, not just to Republicans, but to independents and Democrats. I mean, I've been campaigning in a lot of places where there are not a heck of a lot of Republicans. I've been campaigning in places like West Roxbury and Dorchester and downtown Worcester and Springfield and Lawrence, and was in Lowell earlier today. And when I'm talking to people in those communities and I'm talking about why you want two teams on the field, why you want accountability, why you want the transparency that comes with having the constructive friction I mentioned before, why you want to check against the legislature, why you want somebody who has run a big organization before and knows how to get stuff done, why you want people who can behave in a bipartisan way when it's in the best interest of the people of Massachusetts. That story resonates across political lines, across party lines, and I think it's a big part of what we need to do to be successful here.
Mm-hmm. Mark, do you agree fiscal issues, not social issues?
I do, but your question was about the social issues, and I would say this. I think that voters respect someone who tells them the truth, is candid about it, and not afraid about where you stand on the issues. I think I take the very reasonable position. For example, our state party platform says that every instance of abortion is tragic. That is the language of Hillary Clinton. I mean, I'm agreeing with Hillary Clinton on that. Charlie's to the left of that. In the most recent Supreme Court decision, it was a 9-0 decision on the buffer zone law. I mean, my goodness, I'm agreeing with liberals and conservatives on the court, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I'm agreeing with the ACLU on that. And both pro-life and pro-choice groups should be hailing that decision because it gives women more of an opportunity to get information upon which to make informed choices. But Charlie and the other Democrats, be it Deval Patrick, Martha Coakley, have taken this extreme position and come up with a new buffer zone law. This is ridiculous. I mean, let's be reasonable. 9-0 the Supreme Court rules this. I mean, this is a very reasonable decision. Charlie's got to go to the extreme side of it.
Mark, the new buffer zone law was designed to correct the constitutional flaws that were cited in that decision. You think it doesn't do that? You think it still violates free speech?
I do, and it'll be taken up again at the Supreme Court. Again, it's 9-0. I've been on the sides of sidewalks outside of abortion clinics. The violence done to women is on the inside. Let's get doctors registered so they have admitting procedures at local hospitals. Let's register the healthcare clinics, abortion clinics, so that women have the ability to get the emergency care they need if they need it. That's where the tragedies happen, is inside. Supreme Court Roberts talked about the healthcare people who are giving out information. They're counselors. They're giving out information. These are little old ladies giving out information. And the other side, the extreme side, wants to portray them as protesters. Justice Roberts asked the question, is there any evidence of anything going on side of the sidewalks? And abortion clinics are little branches of the NSA with all their surveillance cameras. None could be documented. None could be documented.
Well, but before the buffer zone law came in, I mean, I had witnessed some of this as a reporter. There were, every Saturday morning, there were screaming, angry, crazy demonstrations on both sides outside of clinics. And while, you know, violence, you have to set terms of what counts as violence, but loud yelling, sign waving, and things like that, I would have found it, you know, if I were going into the hospital for any type of treatment or the clinic for any type of treatment, I would have found that intimidating.
Well, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And so with the 35-foot buffer zone law, I mean, so now are the yelling, screaming people outside of that? No, I think they've gone away. I mean, I disagree with the Supreme Court's ruling about Westboro Baptist Church. They're yelling and screaming at the funerals of fallen soldiers. This is ridiculous. But I'm not seeing any kind of injury done to...
But if the screaming protesters came back, would you then reconsider and consider having a buffer zone, or no?
There are existing laws that prohibit people from interfering with those going into any building, and let's use those existing laws rather than creating new ones.
Well, how about that, Charlie? I mean, you know, you supported the new buffer zone law.
I do.
Is that a restriction on free speech, you think, or not?
Well, I said all along that I thought the balance has to be reached between free speech and a woman's access to healthcare services. And in addition to some of the other people Mark mentioned, the AFL-CIO was on the free speech side of the question on the first buffer zone law. I mean, there were a lot of people on that side of the issue who made for some unusual political bedfellows, which I think spoke to some of the flaws that existed with the statute itself, but certainly not the intent. And I think the new law does accomplish the goal of representing appropriately both points of view. And if it ends up back in the Supreme Court, it will be decided then, and as it should be, because at the end of the day, we're a nation of laws on this stuff.